Marvel's Thunderbolts isn't just another generic superhero film that is a part of Marvel's recent endeavors in the last several years. It's a surprisingly raw and nuanced exploration of superheroes when it comes to exploring their deeper trauma, depression, identity, loneliness, emotional isolation, mental health, and even addiction are all explored within this new addition to the MCU. In this video, we'll dive into analyzing how the film brilliantly weaves mental health into its main characters, its antagonists, and storytelling, offering one of the most emotionally resonant entries in the MCU to date. A movie that, in my personal opinion, is a great representation of the older years of Marvel films in this universe that we really need back. To everyone watching, what was your favorite moment from this movie? And if it related to that aspect of depression, mental health, and the other stuff I mentioned, why did that resonate with you? Let me know in the comments as we run through this video. As I just mentioned, probably the thing I love the most about this movie is that it felt like you were breathing in the air of old school MCU style films. From a storytelling perspective, I love that this movie took the much more linear approach to telling its story in a way that doesn't find itself being distracted by multiple other different things going on. It doesn't matter if it's subplots with certain characters, universe connecting story points that feel out of place, or even what we've been seeing a lot recently in the last however many years, which is the unnecessary addition of cameos just for the sake of adding the cameo in. It's a style of fan service that is done for the wrong reasons that make people dislike fan service even more. Most people who tend to watch movies like this want some kind of fan service as long as it's done right, but for Marvel recently, it has forgotten that it only works if it makes sense. Yes, the story here is definitely generic. You've seen it a million times before. A group of people who don't want to work together find themselves working together in order to stop another threat. They meet in the first half while on their missions, band together in the second act while giving us moments of development, and then the third act is where the big sequences come in. However, Thunderbolts brings us back to a time when Marvel would make their movies as their own thing with their own stories, and then the universe connecting stuff and the cameo stuff would more so be what you'd see in the post-credit scenes, for example. It's the reason why the fandom of Marvel kept growing and growing throughout every new entry in the MCU during the Infinity Saga. Even I, as someone who tends to find enjoyment in every Marvel movie I've watched, and even sometimes the television shows, recognizes that the last however many years since Endgame have been very messy and all over the place. Thunderbolts brings in that old school MCU feel that I think a lot of people have been looking for. Marvel in the last few years has gone through some restructuring along the lines of changing their management by removing Bob Chapek as Disney CEO, moving off of quantity versus quality motto, and then also not doing what has plagued almost all of their properties, which is making shows just for the sake of padding their subscriber count on Disney+, along with the fact that the shows offered viewers sometimes a forced incentive to watch them as homework to be able to see other things that were getting made. From a movie perspective, Captain America Brave New World, which we just got before Thunderbolts, is the last movie of that mismanagement era of Marvel, and now Thunderbolts is the first one to come out of the new management and restructuring, which I might add seems to make a lot of sense because you can see the quality in this movie that feels like we are going back to when they understood what they were doing with this universe correctly. The story of Thunderbolts leans heavy on being a linear character drama throughout our main characters as well as our antagonist, and I think that is why we are seeing a lot of people connect with it. I just wanted to make that statement up front because it's a perfect way to set up the purpose of this particular video, as I now want to talk about the theme that this movie explores, which is a story about depression. Depression is something that can be spawned from a whole variety of things, such as a lot of the stuff that I mentioned up top in the intro. It's practically every single one of those that is explored at some point in the film around our main Thunderbolt cast and our antagonist Sentry/the Void. It's such a unique story in that it is exploring a side of comic book characters that quite frankly you don't see a whole lot of, but to that point, it would also depend on the character that you are following that would warrant having those commentary themes talked about. Each of our main characters come from either a failed walk of life, an accident that made them who they are, or just the lack of people around them who they can possibly relate to because of their job. They are not your typical hero characters, they are antiheroes for that matter, and they do work that an Avenger-like hero could probably go after them for. They walk a line of doing stuff that is within the gray as long as it's done for money and nothing nothing else. And I think that is where we get this film's ability to tell such a grounded story about these kinds of characters who feel like at this point they are doing stuff that is not what they are looking for anymore and want something more than that. Yelena is the main character, and I think a lot of that narrative is driven through her. She is contemplating her work by going under Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She wants something more than just being a contractor who, after she does a job, she drinks herself away and just feels alone. John Walker walks a somewhat similar path, where his depression is spurred out of a family relationship that is no longer a thing with his wife and child, and now finds himself in a line of work under Allegra that is not at all what he had in mind during the time when he was named the new Captain America. A fall from grace that shows a person's struggles because they feel like they had something more in mind for their life, and it sent them into a time of depression because of all the bad things being said about his character. It's also just another way to tell us, the audience, that it's completely okay to talk to somebody about what you are going through. Don't be afraid to let it all out and really explore what is troubling you so that it can make you better in the future. From our main group of characters, those are two of the more primary examples that you can glean from. When it comes to our other antagonist, the Sentry, he represents the suffering of everything you can think of wrapped into one as a negative to his own powers. That is what the Void is a representation of, and the film's big commentary. Robert Reynolds, played by Bill Pullman, is a person who subjugated himself to a medical experiment that, under Allegra de Fontaine, was meant to see if a new kind of power could be attained from it. Robert, or Bob as he goes by, was the ultimate success story where the other human trials were not. His powers give him two different personalities. The Sentry, which is this all-powerful being that honestly, when you watch the movie, quite literally can't be defeated, no matter what you do to him. The Void represents the other half of a person who has been beaten down to the point where they turn to that other half, only appearing when at the moment of this film he is most vulnerable after Allegra and her assistant Mel stun lock him with a kill safe and he does turn. The Void mirrors how depression can feel like an ever-present force within someone. It undermines a sense of reality, and this parallels how anxiety can make people question their worth or fear the harm they might cause, even if they are trying to do good. Bob, within his own personal life, finds struggles within that because of past events that really created that trauma inside of him, and so he felt like the good that could be done was by signing up for a medical experiment that may have made him better, but in the end, it made him what we see in the movie, which was an even more worse powerful being. A power that I don't think any person would ever want to have, because not only does it hurt him, but it also hurts everyone around him because he sends them into the exact same kind of pain that he is going through. Despite being one of the most powerful characters that the MCU has introduced to this day, I can't help but give massive credit to the film for actually breaking down someone that powerful and making them feel way weaker inside. That is why I particularly really liked the third act, because it wasn't your generic end fight sequence between heroes and villains. It was a fight that all of our characters were having with their inner demons to just stop his own. Bucky, Yelena, Red Guardian, Ghost, and John Walker all come together inside of this void to take him down in the only way that makes sense. It offers to us, the audience, one of the most unique ways that we have seen an antagonist be defeated in the MCU. Our heroes come together to fight someone else's trauma by using their own as an escape from the void they purposely entered. After they defeat him, they come out and realize that they definitely are worth something more than what they were before. This functions so beautifully as a commentary on how those internal battles can just be as devastating and dangerous as any external enemy you fight. I think it would be a big mistake if I didn't mention this as much, but I also really appreciate how this movie was a unique step in a direction of utilizing all different kinds of filmmaking creatives to make a coherent film that recognizes what it is. This can come from Jake Schreier as the director, who recently did the show Beef, music by the band Sunlux, who brings in a resonant score, a screenplay from someone like Joanna Calo, who wrote BoJack Horseman, Hacks, and showran The Bear, and finally to the cinematography of Andrew Palermo, who shot The Green Knight. Together, each of these aspects of filmmaking resonate with the themes so beautifully to where everything just feels like it makes sense with how it was done. I particularly really liked how this movie was shot because the usage in particular of shadows really resonates with the Void, given his power is turning people into shadows and darkening the environment all around him. But we get a glimpse of this kind of thing even at the beginning of the film with Yelena, as we are introduced to her on a mission and she is in a hallway fighting off some guards, and the way it is shot makes it look like she is fighting these dark shadows who are trying to stop her. It's very resonant with The Void, with what we see later on in the film, obviously, and I just really like how a lot of the filmmaking aspects within the movie stay consistent throughout, but the cinematography in general is one that I think personally stands out the most. In general, it's just a very well-made movie from a production standpoint. So much of what you see online was done practically, on location, and without the use of CGI. Obviously, there is a ton of CGI in the movie, especially in the third act, but for the most part, a lot of what you see on screen was done for real, and I think it gives you this feeling of watching something that you can actually be invested in because it doesn't look super fake and digital. I think there's no doubt about it, but this movie simply does not work if you don't have a stellar cast ensemble to carry it through. Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Louis Pullman, Wyatt Russell, Sebastian Stan, and Hannah John-Kamen all shine in their own ways. Everyone commits well to the Marvel humor that we know this franchise to instill in itself. The emotional moments, as well as when the action is on screen, find our actors selling the weight of its effects on those around them. There's no question in my mind, but for me, Florence Pugh and David Harbour are the standouts. We've known for a while now that she is now becoming one of the most lauded actresses in the world. She's good in everything that she touches, and Harbour, as Red Guardian at this point, after just 2 movies, has now become one of the best things the MCU has ever done, and I will stand by that. David Harbour just nails this character so well, and I'd be perfectly okay if he got his own standalone movie at this point. Bill Pullman was also a standout as well, especially for a role that originally was not supposed to be his because it was going to be played by Steven Yeun. I think both of them would have done very well with this character, but given what we got with Bill, I still think that he managed to pull something out that was very unexpected and appreciated. The rest of the cast, again, was decent, even if some of them take a small backseat to the others who are much newer to the universe, whether that be Ghost, Bucky, or John Walker. The first act was probably the weakest because of their awkward introduction to each other, but also because of the fact that I did have a little bit of the wind taken out of my sails because of the very strange inclusion of the character Taskmaster, a character that was included in so much of the marketing and promotion material for the movie leading up to its release, and my problem with what they do with this character is not so much what they didn't do with her as much as it is what they could have done with her. I'm not one of the people who dislike how the character was utilized in Black Widow, but here it just seems very strange and out of place that they would have included her in the first place if they were just going to kill her off in the first 5 seconds. I think you either should have kept her for the whole entire movie, or you should have just left her alone and out of it, but that is neither here nor there at this point. What's done is done. Finally, given I've already mentioned a couple of spoilery details in this video, I do want to talk about the post-credit scene and how it affects the future of the MCU with these characters and upcoming stories. Again, I mentioned it up top, but I do love how this movie made sure to focus on its own story first, and it left what could come in the future for the post-credit scene. The post-credit scene, of course, as we see, is that they are now being labeled as the new Avengers for what they did in New York stopping the Void. While sitting joking around waiting on a new mission, they get an incoming signal coming from outer space, only to find that a ship is entering orbit. A ship with a very distinct logo on it that is the logo for the new Fantastic Four. Aside from the fact that this is a very huge spoiler for the Fantastic Four movie that is coming very soon, it does set up the future very brightly for what's coming, as we know that the next few films being made under Marvel are Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. You can't do those movies unless you have the Fantastic Four involved, and so this is one of the few post-credit scenes recently from Marvel films that I actually appreciated what it did, and it got my theater decently excited. Fantastic Four is a very big deal, and they'll join up with our new Avengers squad, and now it's a squad that I would follow for more films. So if you want my personal opinion on this, I'm looking forward to the future, especially for Fantastic Four this summer as the next MCU installment. And there you have it. That is my commentary and analysis of Marvel's Thunderbolts. Other than just reviewing the movie, I wanted to make sure that I included that aspect of the depression/mental health commentary because it definitely resonated with me on the story. What do you all think of my analysis? Leave your comments down below, and please be respectful if you disagree with anything I said in my analysis. Thank you all for stopping by my channel. If you want to see more moving forward from me with regards to film and television, and you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you are new here, and turn on that notification bell. I'm trying to build a community on here, and your support would be appreciated. That's a wrap, folks. I hope everyone here has a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you all soon for the next video.